Mike Florio talked about why Deshaun Watson would have offered the settlements that he did at the trade deadline, because the Dolphins wanted him to do that as part of the agreement to acquire him from the Texans. That deal fell through. But here is Mike Florio on why you would settle if you're Deshaun Watson.
Watson would say that the money was offered for one reason only, so he could get the trade that he wanted, so he could try to play football, even though the Dolphins were under the impression, I've heard multiple times, that it was going to be a 6-game suspension of Deshaun Watson if he settled those cases. But, you know, in hindsight, if he'd have been traded last year to the Dolphins, he wouldn't have gotten a $230 million fully guaranteed contract on the way through the door. He actually has made more money by waiting. Not that the problem is any better for him, because I think the sooner this all goes away, the better off he's going to be. And I've said from March of 2021, and I said it in March of 2022 when he was traded, these cases need to be resolved. You need to find a way to let the individuals believe they've gotten their justice. And this is the way the civil justice system works. It is a transaction. It is a payment of money that compensates someone for whatever it was that they endured that they shouldn't have had to endure, that they believe that they endured, whether you agree with it or not. That's how you make it right.
Brett, a couple of things. Now, Mike Florio was an attorney, so let's point that out. The second thing is that's the first time I have heard a number, any number, associated with a suspension. And Florio, who pretty well plugged in nationally and in the NFL, said he's heard 6 games multiple times. I wouldn't imagine that it's increased necessarily at all. So if it's a 6-game suspension, the Browns probably look at that as being pretty manageable, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would take 6 games in a heartbeat right now, honestly. You know, there are some things, to be honest, that came out in this 23rd case that worry me a little bit. If you kind of dig into the elements, there are some aspects of it that make me think that maybe there's a little bit of, like, the criminal side of the law could come back into play, and that worried me a little bit with the third party and everything, and I won't get into all the details of it, but that kind of worried me a little bit. So I'd kind of jump on 6 games. I love 6 games at this point. You know, he states that the Dolphins had it on good authority that he was going to take 6 games, or he was going to get 6 games if he settled then. I agree with Florio in the statement. Now, Florio's been really hard on the Browns, and so is Peter King, and so is Sims. And, you know, I listen to those guys, and I like Florio, and I agree with him here that from my perspective, from Florio's perspective, from our seats, it's easy to say, settle, make them go away. And honestly, I think that's what would be best for him. Maybe somebody does need to have that reality check talk with him. Like, this is probably what's best. Make these go away. Because if he really wants to fight these cases, and I had a California sports lawyer, Jeremy Evans, on my show yesterday, talking about the length that these cases could take. We're talking a long time to litigate all these cases going on, you know, especially when you can't do it during football season. So I agree with him about the settlement, but once again, you only get one name, and it's up to him what he wants to do, right? I would take 6 games in a heartbeat. I'm worried it could be more, honestly, at this point. But, you know, and that was a long time. That was a year ago that the Dolphins thought it was 6 games. And I will say this about Florio and Peter King. These are the same guys, Dave, that in December, if the Browns didn't make the playoffs and had kept Baker Mayfield, would be pounding on the table saying the Browns don't have a good enough quarterback. That's why they're not in the playoffs. So just FYI,
I'm with you. And again, they're pretty well plugged into the NFL. So that 6 games with the Dolphins is probably something that they heard from pretty good authority. We'll see. I'm with you. I'm concerned it could be longer as well.